Better now, or is it still bad?
I think it's working better, actually.
There we go then. No need. No
Okay,
need to
cool.
make more landfill waste David Lee scales.
Toxic waste.
Toxic landfill waste, the Rode microphones that are littering landfills from failed podcasts are legion, I feel.
Failed podcast would be the ultimate culprit for that, for sure. Welcome back to the show, man. Episode, I don't even know what episode this is, but it is August 6th.
That's what's most important. August 6th, and let me tell you what, David Lee scales, South California has turned into South Florida temperature-wise.
Is it hot?
It is not only sweltering, it is wildly humid.
The worst combo.
I love it though. You can't make me hot enough.
That's true. I was going to say drive out to Palm Springs, but I forgot of your love for humidity.
I sit and heat. I'll just sit in the car in Palm Springs. I will go out into the car in the morning to go on a coffee run or whatnot and just sit there and breathe that oven air in and just bask, just baste, I suppose, for a couple minutes before getting on the way.
I saw, not that you could trust Instagram's medical advice, but I saw in Instagram about some study that was done recently about a couple of traits that people possess who don't get cancer.
Love of heat.
One of them was sweating regularly.
Oh man.
They triangulated among the patients that were like healthy and lived till whatever age without getting cancers. They triangulated the information into like these three different traits, and one of the traits was sweating regularly. And the science was suggesting that the toxins or heavy metals that are in your body will stay in your body. You can sweat them out, but if you let them sit in your body and fester, they can create cancer.
Well, there I go. Healthy as a horse.
There you go.
Thanks, ag1.com/surf.
Exactly. Man, we haven't been promoting drinkag1.com/surf nearly enough.
Nope, it keeps me alive and ticking.
I slept incredibly last night thanks to AGZ. So there's that.
I mean, amazing.
So basically I texted Chaz yesterday and we were texting about something and I said, hey, have you watched the new Stab Mike episode with Jaime O'Brien? Goodness gracious, he sounds like a douche. Basically, is what I said.
What did I say? David Lee scales.
You kind of defended him, and I was like, he just seems ungrateful and self-centered. And you were like, well, it seems like he got personally hurt by whatever happened with Catch Surf, and that he has raw nerves about it. And I'm like, no, this is not a new perspective. Like he feels that I've heard him talk this way all the time. He burns through sponsors like crazy. I've talked to people who have sponsored him. They've given me a little bit of backstory. I was like, he started out the interview by acting like he didn't know the name of the podcast that he is on, even though it's in the studio, and he later admits that he knows Dane Reynolds hosts it, so I presume he's heard of it before, if not watched it. And you said, you know what? Don't text me about this bull crap. Let's talk about it on the pod. Let's do a debate. So here we go.
Let's get it. In defense of Jaime O'Brien right here for me. So the reason I listened to this Stab Mic, this is the first Stab Mic I ever listened to. I was actually on the flight. You can go hear the details, the horror details of early flight, unruly or disruptive or something passenger had to get kicked off the plane. So I had extra time. How often do you listen to pods at the 10-second skip interval?
Never.
You cruise them out.
I cruise them out, and other people also recommend you can put it on 2 times speed or 1.5 times speed.
I never do that. So the reason that I listened to this one in particular, to be quite frank with you, David Lee Scales, and with you, dear listener, is somebody had texted me that, nobody texted me. I saw it in the Beach Crit comment section that Jaime O'Brien spoke about me at the end. And I was like, oh, did you get to that part?
No, I didn't. I'm almost finished with it, but apparently that's at the very, very end.
Yeah, the last few minutes they ask, Duma asks, I think give us a good Kelly Slater story. And that's where I come in.
What does he say?
He talks about how I ran his Twitter account early days and how I was tweeting things from Jamie's Twitter account that were apparently salaciously negative about Kelly, and then Kelly got really angry and hurt and had words with Jaime at some point about it. But all of this, like, yeah, we can get into that later if you want. That's a
now.
story in and of itself. Yeah, I mean that whole story. Jaime has it part right,
Well,
but
tell
also
it. Go ahead, do it now.
okay. Well, so Jaime O'Brien had a wild man manager. This is part of where in defense of Jaime, right? Like Andrew Long. Have I spoke about Andrew Long on this program before?
You've spoken about him. I don't know where it was.
Yeah, Andrew Long is a tall tale in and of himself. He was like a 6'6", 350-pound South Australian who was kind of orange.
You know who should play him in a film?
Who?
Brendan Gleeson.
Yeah, Brendan Gleeson would be a perfect Andrew Long. Andrew Long is literally a legend. He was such a quick blip, but basically he got Jaime. This is now would have been like 17 years ago, right? And so it was Andrew Long was a genius, and I've realized how working with around reading about kind of genius enough now, you like it never presents you assume that all geniuses get scrubbed clean by history, right? It's just their genius is clearly prescient and they were epic and smart and knew stuff that nobody else knew and lived healthy, normal lives. I've realized geniuses are insane. That's how they're genius. And that insanity is all like, there's 30% genius in there and 70% insanity. And so later the genius gets flattened or that's what rises and the insanity gets tamped down. And so Andrew Long, though, basically, again, this is 17-ish years ago. The surf industry was alive and well, thriving. Andrew Long saw this is all ending. The future is going to be these athletes controlling their own narratives. And so Twitter was almost not nascent then, but it was not I don't think surfers were really on it doing anything. No. So this was early days. So he was like, you write Jamie's tweets. I'll manage them in terms of blowing it up. And, off we go. So he also started basically Jamie's YouTube, like all of this, again, way, 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 way early. And so, yeah, I would write Jamie's tweets. Jaime was like fully cool. I lived in Hawaii at that time in Andrew Long's crazy house, and would just write rando tweets all day.
So what does Jaime tell it? Or where did Jaime get it wrong in his telling?
So Jaime, I can't remember what I said about Kelly, to be honest. I don't know. Andrew Long himself might have gotten in there and said some stuff, but I'll take the blame for it. Whatever. I'm sure it was me I don't even know that Andrew wrote anything, but, so I'm sure I said crazy stuff about Kelly. And it was funny as Jaime told it, he was like, Chaz, I had Chaz Smith doing this and, Jaime was heaping praise on my being able to exacerbate. And both Duma and Josiah, I guess his name is, the guy filling in for Dane, really sitting there, they did not want to talk about me at all. I realized watching that clip what a persona non grata I am at Stab, because Jaime asked him, he said, yeah, Chaz used to write for Stab. Yeah. And they both hemmed and hawed and said, Duma finally says he was freelance with Derek. So even throwing Derek, who co-founded Stab, into a freelance role made me think, okay, there is real hurt feelings in that room. Because I love Duma. Duma and I have spent plenty of time together, not recently, but back in the day, and had a fine relationship. But I realized, man, my behavior, and I've talked about it, and I've apologized for it, I just thought it was going to be fun, right? I thought, when we started Beach Crit, and I always thought what media needs is media beef. And I've, again, talked about this a lot, but like the yellow journalism days when it was the Hearst newspapers versus I can't remember who their fight was against, but these newspapers were fighting, right? And I thought, this is fun. How is surf? So starting Beach Crit, going after the Inertia, going after Stab, going after Surfer, going after any other publication, trying to start beef. Only now, all these years later, maturity settled in, have realized that, oh, those people don't actually like beef. Like, it wasn't, no, people don't separate themselves. Like I thought, sure, we all have our public platforms here, but that's not us. I still love you as a person, but I was treating it all like the WWE, I suppose.
Yeah, the Duma actually brings up an example when Jaime is complaining about Catch Surf, which is a company that supported him. They worked together for a decade. Basically, they sponsored Jaime. Jaime made a lot of money off of them in a paycheck, and he also helped build their brand. They've grown a lot through that relationship. He subsequently left the company because they wouldn't give him shared ownership, and he didn't want the paycheck anymore, and so he started a competing brand. And as they're talking about that, Duma says, I think the beef is good. I like that you're bringing the heat because that's what the surf brands are missing nowadays, because they're all owned by ABG. Back in the day, he goes, when I was young, it was fun that Quicksilver was trying to outdo Billabong, and Billabong was trying to undercut Quicksilver. They were fighting.
Well, Duma should look in the mirror then. Duma, this goes out to you. Love you so much. None of it was personal. And I'm going to be on my make amends tour now. I feel this next 5 to 10 years of my life is going to be, oh man, I stirred the pot and really tried to make fights. And now it's time to apparently make amends for the people I hurt. Because again, both Duma and Josiah's face when Jamie O'Brien mentioned my name go kind of ghost white.
So I would be shocked if they didn't know your name was going to come up. I'd be shocked if Sam had a sit down with everybody on staff, including Josiah, and was like, hey, this guy's blacklisted.
Yeah, this is the name. I am the Voldemort of surf. This is the name that shall not be mentioned.
Yeah, that seems excessive.
Yeah, but I feel that's what it is. It was where again, I'll take responsibility of, I think I really hurt people's feelings deeply, and that was never my intention to hurt actual feelings. I thought this is all play. We're in a giant sandbox here, and it's fun in the sandbox if two kids start throwing sand in each other's eyes. Everyone else can look and think, look at that sand fight right there.
Well, as it relates to Jamie, let's do our debate.
Yeah, okay, but real quick. So the part I think Jamie got wrong is that the whole Kelly Slater hurt feelings part may or may not, or I'm sure was true. I'm sure Kelly was hurt, But after all of that Twitter stuff is when I directed, a year after that, I think, is when I directed Who Was J.O.B. and got Kelly to sit down and got to interview Kelly for the film, right? And so there must have been... Kelly must not have been that hurt by either me or Jamie, and Kelly for sure has been hurt by me since then. I will never get another sit-down interview with Kelly Slater, but had a sit-down in the room interview with Kelly Slater for the film specifically. So gotcha. All that. But yeah, so you send up your beef, and I will defend.
Okay, I'll start off just by saying he got better towards the end of the interview when he wasn't talking about himself, when he was just talking about his favorite pipe surfers and things like that. But the first 30 or 40 minutes, he was doing a lot of complaining, and it actually reminded me of us when we started doing this show. And so I would like to start by apologizing to all of our listeners who had to persevere those early days, because God, it's annoying.
Yeah, when people are on personal complainy beef.
Yeah.
Yeah, except for the fact that I think both of us were right, not in the execution, but in the, in the emotion of it, right? And I feel that Jamie is correct also, maybe not in the execution, but in the emotion. I think I think you, and not to blow smoke here, but you were an iconoclast in that nobody had thought surf podcasting till you came along, right?
For the most part, yeah.
Yeah, and so you started this, and I guess it was inevitable as podcasts became more popular, but you saw it early and thought, I'm getting in, there's a whole world here. I'm getting into this game. I don't think you, and again, not to blow smoke, you don't get credit for that. There's not nobody has ever, David Lee Scales was the first one to do this, and then off we all went from there. You never get credit.
Yeah, I don't need the credit.
Sure.
Yeah, so
But you
I don't
never
really
get
care.
it.
And
Exactly. But you also
I
don't get it.
should say for the record, Scott Bass was the official first.
Okay, great.
And it was the way that it worked, the timeline was he was working for Surfer Magazine and they weren't calling it a podcast even. They were just, he was doing like a radio show that they were publishing on their website. And then they stopped doing it. And so, and I think maybe he left Surfer. And so then he started doing another version of it that he did publish as a podcast, but it was very sporadically published. But I had listened to the Surfer Magazine one and I liked the idea of it. I liked podcasts, other podcasts that I was listening to so much. So I looked if there was any surf podcasts, and I had previously listened to the Surfer Magazine one, but it went away. And then I was like, where can I find this now? So I found him publishing it with another buddy, co-hosting a show. And so I'm like, okay, cool, I'll subscribe to that. At which point I had already started doing long form interviews with people and launched Surf Splendor. So I was trying to listen to Scott, but he was so sporadic in his publishing. It'd be like not once a week or once a month. It'd be like 3 times a week once. And then I wouldn't hear it for 2 months. And then it was like another once. And then it was next week. And then it was, and the audio quality was so different from episode to episode that I was like, man, this guy just needs consistency. Like, it's great that he's a capable host, but he needs consistency. So I was doing long form interviews and I reached out to him and I was like, hey, listeners said that they want surf news. Maybe you and I can be the reliable weekly technical setup and, I'll show up every week. And so that's how Spit started. But he was technically the first at Surfer Magazine.
Well, Scott Bass, I always loved you, but tip my cap once again. But yeah, so I think though in the similar way, Jaime is an iconoclast in so many ways in surf, right? He was the first one, and again, this was all through Andrew Long's initial, I think, instinct of this is all changing. The brand sponsorship model of a surfer is going away. And to Andrew's mind, he was like, I have the person who surfs pipe better than anyone else currently. What is better than that? Jaime is the brand, right? And so that's what it became. And I think, again, Long was a visionary. Jaime also a visionary because he took it on. I mean, Andrew Long was insane. And the fact that Jaime dealt with that, it means that Jamie's kind of insane too. But I feel that Jaime has broken so many doors down and really, and for better or for worse, in so many ways is responsible for what the surf industry is. And then so, yeah, he's probably, and I don't think he's angry about anything, but 100% Jaime O'Brien made Catch Surf. Catch Surf would not be a brand without Jaime O'Brien. I would 100% argue.
It's a double-edged sword there.
I mean, it is. With a brand relationship, it always is, right? But I feel that it's the athlete that always gets screwed at the end. Even though, yes, he got paid a salary. He made that brand. He should have been given an ownership stake. So
what I mean by a double-edged sword there is you're right in everything that you said about that relationship, but the proliferation of soft tops can very much be resting on Jamie's shoulders as much as Jerry Lopez's. So
more so on Jamie's, I feel. I mean, sure, like it's a great evil in many ways, but it also is what it is, and like clearly that's what the market wanted. The market wanted soft tops.
No, I think more so than Jerry. You're right, because Jerry just put his name on it and they're in Costco. You never see Jerry riding one. Oh. What Jaime did for soft tops was show that, or not, I don't think he proved that they can work at pipe, but he's just such a talented surfer that he can make them work anywhere. But he made people take them seriously because I know so many surfers. Almost every surfer I know has a soft top in their quiver. They never would have done that had Jaime not ridden them at pipe.
Absolutely. And so again, in defense of Jaime, I don't think Catch Surf's technology was great then, right? I feel that whatever soft top tech is, and Jaime talks about the tech in his new board, is evolving. It's not my cup of tea.
He's such a hypocrite.
About evolving. But okay, but back to the original part of the conversation there. He was saying that, look, I put my life on the line out there at Pipeline riding these prototypes. He was the Chuck Yeager of soft tops. He was the test pilot, like packing barrels at pipe. Not only that, on these things that probably didn't work that well, but then did you hear the part about him getting grief in the water?
Yeah, of course.
Which is pretty epic, right? Like paddling out on something, knowing that everybody hates this. They're going to hate me. I don't care. I'm one of the best, if not the best surfer out here. I can go when I want. I will shove this down their throat because I don't care. And then also, this is what I think Jaime was prescient again in knowing, and again, for better or for worse. I'm not saying that, great, and now we have soft tops everywhere. I think it is a scourge and a curse, but it's also clearly what the market wants.
Every single thing that he is miffed about and that he complains about, he is the biggest culprit of. At this point, he has welcomed more kooks into surfing than Duke Kahanamoku himself. And he's done it in the most offensive way possible. The graphics are offensive, the approach is offensive, the soft tops are offensive. The middle Americans showing up at Pipeline with the hubris to think that they can paddle out are because they watch his vlog. They even talk about his merch sales all come from middle America. So when I say the things that he's most miffed about, he's the biggest culprit of, the lack of respect he is miffed about in the lineup in general, you're telling me he did. He showed up in the middle of the lineup. All the Loke dogs and the elders are like, what are you doing out here? But he's on a longboard and it's soft top. He could paddle deeper, take off earlier, and he just starts going.
Yeah. I mean, again, for better or for worse, Jamie O'Brien single-handedly basically changed the surf industry, and it could be argued that he wrecked it, but it was already wrecked, right? I mean, that's the thing. There was
a hierarchy. There was an order that existed. I agree with you. It was coming either way, but he ushered everybody in. He opened the door, kicked it down, and then just welcomed middle America and non-surfers in. And by the way, I also told you in text, I'm like, I don't think him coming off this way in this episode doesn't negatively affect him at all, because nobody listening to this is buying his merch or even watching his vlogs at this point.
I mean, that was not his audience, right? Like his audience is middle America probably, or is the non-core surfer. But again, who killed the core? I would argue, and it wasn't Jamie O'Brien. I feel that the surf industry itself, or the surf industry ate itself. The surf industry got so high on its own supply that it killed itself.
I think that we are all hypocrite. Anybody who makes a living off of surfing is actually a hypocrite, because I've actually looked kind of closely at this over the years, just been observing silently, because now I make a living off of surfing. Anybody who makes a living off of surfing wants to venerate their own core audience, be like, these are the heroes of the sport, Mike, they're the core, right? And then try to undermine the relevance of all the non-audience members. So it's like, we love our listeners and we blow them up, support them any chance we get. And then if you don't listen, it's like, oh, because they're not core surfers. Only core surfers listen to our thing. That's what every single surf brand, surfboard shaper, everybody does, because you have to survive.
I mean, I guess so, but I feel that in this less grit version of Chaz, somebody posted with my new Shea Soma board on my Instagram. This is not going to help make you grit again, which we can get to that later. But the kinder, gentler, more open, more like, yeah, screw it all. And Jamie O'Brien, or like, yes, there should be etiquette in the lineup, and I want people to be, we're complaining and grousing and grumbling always about lack of awareness, right? That is a number one problem, is lack of awareness. But I think Jamie's aware
of his own brashness and hypocrisy.
He's always been that. Like, I think Jamie also was the first one who did he released not one, not two, but three films that were starring himself. And nobody was doing that back then. Like,
I agree.
Taylor Steele, you got to get a director and then do a pod of the momentum generation. Jamie went out and was like, screw this, I am front and center. Jamie's always been a showman,
100%.
And I think that surfing is better off as something to watch because of Jaime's showmanship.
That may be true. I'd have to think about that. I think the problem for Jaime that I identified through this is he overvalues talent, and like talent is super important, but it's not everything. The lack of humility that doesn't come with his talent is central to his value. So when he has a partnership with somebody like Catch Surf, there's no sympathy, humility, understanding of the way the business operates. He thinks that he is the most important person in the room. And so if you don't couple the talent with the empathy, sympathy, humility, and characteristics that aren't centered around your own well-being, you will alienate people and you will never achieve your fullest potential.
Again, I suppose back to my original argument is genius is messy. And I feel that Jaime's a savant in a lot of ways, right? I mean, the way he rides pipe, the way he understands that wave, the way, in fact, that he rides deep, crazy barrels, especially, in his physical prime. Jaime's a savant. And then so to expect, okay, you're a savant, you are a outside the box thinker, and then we also expect you to have all the other aspects of what makes a person a good person. You and I can be humble and we can do all that because we're not geniuses.
Yeah, I
think I'm
agree.
a genius sometimes, but
So first of all, I don't expect him to be these other things. There's no expectation for me with Jaime to be humble. And I agree with you. He's a savant level surfer. But if I'm going to listen to him for an hour on the podcast, I'm going to complain about this stuff, his shortcomings.
did you look at the comments? Like, what was the general vibe of how Jaime O'Brien came across?
Insufferable was the word I saw over and over again.
Do you think Jaime cares?
I think that, yes, if he actually read it and took it seriously, it would hurt your feelings and he would care. But I think that he's going to publish a video on Monday that's going to get 500,000 views, and he's going to get a bunch of positive comments there, and that'll buoy him right back up.
I mean, I think Jaime has been taking lickings from the surf community ever since again, 17 odd years ago when I first met Jaime O'Brien. He was already the redheaded stepchild of surf back then, even though he surfed pipe better than all of them, and they all knew it, and that's at the end. It's you and I talk about a lot. You dance well, no sins.
All is forgiven.
Yeah, all is forgiven. Jaime O'Brien surfed pipe well. All was forgiven from the core. I mean,
Yeah.
from the Bruce Ironses and Kelly Slaters and all of them.
So again, look at his list of sponsors who came and went, paid him a lot of money and came and went really quickly. I think that that's related to the chip that's on his shoulder that you are talking about. And so the problem that I have with modern society, I think, is exemplified right here. And you just nailed it, which is you can surround yourself, you can build a life outside of the industry, earn a lot of income, have a lot of yes people, and it will never require you to fix the actual flaws in your character or personality. So he's been able to just keep ratcheting into that narcissistic front of the camera showman that you're talking about and never have to learn how to, manage the relationships basically.
But what if both of those things can't exist simultaneously, right? Like if who Jaime O'Brien is by necessity precludes any, you can't be a, self-aware, thoughtful, and do that, right? And do what he's doing. I mean, I feel, let's talk about Ben Gravy here for a minute, just because we love talking about Ben Gravy on the program. And I feel, what do you think the dear listener feels that our perspective of Ben Gravy is?
They would have to have been listening years ago because I don't think we've actually shared our opinion about him in a long time, but they probably think we think he's a nerd.
Yeah. And that's probably how it came off. And I, again, on my apology tour, I see Ben Gravy in a similar way in terms of he opened the door to a lot of people. A lot of people really attached to Ben Gravy. Good dude, Ben Gravy. Great guy. All of this stuff. Yeah, but also he's the Jamie O'Brien who I feel is, I don't know how self-aware he is, but has the at least plausible humility. He also doesn't surf as good as Jamie O'Brien.
No, so yeah, I think I'd rather hang out with Ben Gravy, like as a likable person, but I don't want to watch him surf. Jamie O'Brien, on the other hand, I will watch him surf. Don't want to hang out with him.
I'm telling you, you're missing out. Jamie O'Brien is a fun hang. I lived in Jamie's house for like weeks at a time.
Okay, so aside from the majority of my gripe was around the lack of gratitude that he had for this very long-term relationship that benefited him tremendously.
I mean, but that's where I would throw out right back on Catch Surf and say Catch Surf benefited more and didn't show its gratitude back to Jamie. Like if that's where it broke down, if Jamie's like, look, I made your brand, and I think if I recall in the podcast, there was a Catch was either up for sale or going to sell or something, where Jamie's like, look, I made this. I literally made this. Without me, you would not have a brand.
I don't think that's true.
I mean, I would argue it is. And you know, hindsight 2020, like you could argue, Catch Surf could say, what we were doing, we entered the soft top market. We saw the future. We didn't need Jamie O'Brien. If Jamie O'Brien didn't paddle out pink Catch Surf boards at Pipeline, would Catch Surf even exist today? I would argue, or it could be argued, that no, it would have been a flash in the pan that would have went away because why not just get a Wavestorm? Jamie O'Brien wasn't, I mean, he was out of Pipeline on Wavestorms too, but
That's right, he was.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to argue that. I don't know that space enough. I just think that that's a argument that you can't, we'll never know the actual truth to that argument because we don't have the opposite example.
But I'll take that. But also, when it comes between corporation and person, who is acting more poorly, I'll always side with the person over the corporation, right?
The only problem I have there is, like I said, there's a long list of other companies who have been scorned by their relationship with him.
Yes.
So that's a pattern.
Yes, but also maybe they just aren't recognizing Jamie O'Brien's value and they're undervaluing him.
How was your partnership with him?
It was great. I mean, it was phenomenal. It was like Jamie O'Brien. Look, how many people would, and at the time I just took it for granted, or didn't take it for granted, but didn't think about it that much. I was like, of course, this is the way it is. But Jamie O'Brien did not see his movie until everyone else saw it on opening night at the Newport Lido Theater, where I just told Jamie, you're not seeing this. And the fact that he gave me that creative control over his life's work at that point is phenomenal. Like, I don't know, like he he was like, okay, cool, I guess I don't get to see it. And I call him a retard in there.
In the film?
Yeah. Do you remember? You should watch it.
Dude, it's been 15 years.
It's a classic. Jamie O'Brien is retarded, is a boof. Comes up as a big
that's right.
screen.
I do remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jamie O'Brien's mother didn't love him. Comes up as a big hammer screen. Like, it was deep cuts all over Jamie.
I forgot about that. Yes. So a couple of other things that make him a bad podcast guest. Worst storyteller ever.
Yeah.
He rambles and rambles. He'll say the same thing 3 times in a row. He transitions from there to there. They're like, they haven't even asked another question yet, and he's already told 4 stories.
I will say, and that's true. They should have like lassoed Jamie a little bit better because Jamie does have phenomenal stories to tell. And they should have, like, I feel that they made it. And of course, Jamie was there ostensibly to spruik his new soft top brand, right? What's it called again?
Fun Day.
Fun Day. Is that all of it? So that's the soft top and the clothing brand.
Correct.
Okay. So it was there to spruik Fun Day Surf, but they should have gone in because Jamie has phenomenal, early day pipe stories, and I feel they touch on it, but I'm going to blame, not that I'm blaming anyone because it's the new kinder me, but I'm going to blame Duma for not actually wrangling that interview a bit better and going real heavy kind of catch surf soft top business for way too much of it.
Yeah, I don't know like Jaime does have good stories, and the stories that he was telling would have been good stories if they were somebody else telling them. That's
Yeah.
how I felt. I was like, bro, get to the point, or like dig into that part of it, not that part of it. He also doesn't listen at all.
Yeah.
So like Duma would interject with something that was pointed to push Jaime a different direction. Jaime didn't even hear it. He just kept rolling the other way. And laughing tremendously over the top at his own thing that he just said.
Go back and watch Who is J.O.B., the Red Bull film from when did it come out? 2010. Must have been 2010. A classic. It is aged like fine wine, David Lee Scales.
So the other issue I have or take umbrage with is him talking about we're innovating in the soft top space. No, he's not. He did not say one thing that he innovated. He talked about putting future fin boxes in their soft tops. Our buddies at Album Surfboards were doing that from day one. There's a lot of, I don't know where Jaime's are made, but there is difference between a Wave Storm or some of these kind of more thoughtfully built soft tops that have stringers in them, different laminate materials that are not just foam only. They have structure to them, and of course, fin boxes that you could put good fins in, hard edges, things like that. It sounds like Jaime's using the better version of the soft top, but that's been being done now for 5 years at least.
I mean, clearly, and also, Jamie's probably a smarter dude or knows the space better than me. Clearly that, but I don't understand where the Venn diagram, where like normal, PU surfboard and high performance. Who needs a high performance soft top? Like I understand the Jerry Lopez and the Wave Storm and just a boggy, crappy soft top out there. Catch a lot of waves, go straight. Put the kid on the nose and cruise or whatever. But in terms of, nope, I want this thing to perform better. Once you want your soft top to perform better is when you get a surfboard.
Yeah, yeah. Now, one thing I do like about Jaime in this is once they got done talking about him and his businesses, and they were talking about favorite pipe surfers and stuff, he answers a question immediately. So I hear lots of times somebody being interviewed, they'll be asked a question and they dance around all of these things before they get to the answer. Duma says, was Bruce better than Andy at Pipeline?
Yes.
Jaime goes, yes. And then he elaborates why. So I love getting a straight answer from a person, and he was doing that.
Especially on that, again, I mean, I feel that there could be I'm sure there's been a ton of pipe-specific movies made, but pipe still fascinates me in terms of what the wave is, what it means, and the hierarchy out there. It fascinated me at the time, when I was making the Who is J.O.B. movie, like I would pepper Jaime all the time, like, how do you know? What do you do? And stuff like that, right? And Jaime, he talks about in the movie, he was like, look, I just have my spot that I sit out there, and I paddle out there, and if somebody else is in that spot, doesn't matter who it is, I'm just, you got to get out of here. That kind of, I don't know, pipe that, I can never get enough pipe stories like that. And I really like that about the podcast too, about those answers right there, like who surfs pipe the best, who, that Bruce Andy thing was fascinating.
Another thing that I will say, because this validates something that I say all the time in the last couple of years, is he talked about having a conversation with Noah Beshin and saying, don't go on tour because it'll ruin your surfing.
Yes.
And I was like, I've been harping on that for a long time, and I'm glad to hear Jaime say it too, which is it's incumbent upon the WSL to run in better waves, because the John Florences of the world, Jack Robinson is actually a great example of somebody who honed their craft at Chopu, at the Box, at North Point, at Pipeline, at Sunset Beach, the world's best waves, and he was fine-tuning his craft to outperform everybody else in the world's best waves. Then he has to subdue all of his surfing just to qualify for the tour by going on the QS. And then even when he's on the CT, he's having to dumb down his surfing just to fit in. Like, it's not showcasing his best surfing, and it's not even helping him get better at surfing by surfing lowers and Sakurama or wave pools for that matter.
I mean, I think that the proof in the pudding of who are the surfers when they pop on Instagram, do you stop and watch?
Mason Ho,
Mason Ho, Mikey February for me.
Clay Marzo.
Clay Marzo. Like, I don't know that I even follow. Maybe this is why they're not getting fed to me. But also, my interest level in surfing, it's not like I'm, hating surfing so much. A good, 50% of my Instagram feed is surf-related content. I don't know that I have one CT surfer on there, not because I am boycotting the World Surf League Championship Tour surfers, but because that surfing and whatever those guys are doing on their off time, none of it is interesting to me.
Well, I agree with that. I just think that also, if you're a UFC fighter and you want to get better and you want to prove that you're the best fighter in the world, or if you're a mixed martial artist and you want to get better and you want to prove that you're the best fighter in the world, you fight better fighters to get better. And UFC has created an arena and a platform where they have the best fighters that have to come there to fight each other to prove who the best in the world is. What I'm saying is the WSL has not created that arena, and in fact, they've done the opposite, to where if you're aged 22 to 30, these are your prime years of surfing life. If you choose to come here, you will get worse at surfing.
Yeah.
You might not get worse, but you're going to plateau. You're not going to expand your craft. Maybe if in the off season you go spend extra time at Pipe and these other spots, then maybe you will get better. But the surfers who are, the Nathan Florences traveling the world, he's pushing Harry Bryant. He's pushing the limits of his surfing. He's out there growing as a surfer because he's chasing the best waves in the world. And that's not happening if you're going to surf Bells and you wait 3 weeks to surf 3 days.
I mean, on that note, though, are you looking forward to pumping Chopu, even though I think the winds are bad?
Well, it has been pumping these last couple of days in the free surfs. It's been kind of unbelievable. So I don't know what the forecast looks like for the contest, but absolutely yes.
I think bad winds. But if there is, and again, I mean, how many times can you and I put on the boot and kick this dead horse? I just don't know why the World Surf League can't figure out how to adjust to we're a mobile tour. We have these spots, there's 8 spots or whatever, and we will go there on the 3 best days that they are firing all year.
Yeah, they got to figure it out. Look, John's not doing the tour because they don't do that.
Yep.
There's a bunch of other examples of people who have left. It's just not in their best interest at this point, and they're not going to get themselves a Noah Beshin.
Yeah.
Based on Jamie's advice to him. While we're on the subject, do you want to discuss Jonah Hill and the controversy that he's been experiencing this past week?
Wow. I mean, kind of surprising. I love me some Jonah Hill. You know that. I hope the dear listener, Jonah is phenomenal. Jonah, for all, again, my apology tour continues, which I've already apologized to. I never apologized to Jonah in person. I think I did, but he said not necessary. You do what you do. But in any case,
let me set the table.
Yeah.
Jonah Hill started to learn how to surf, I don't know when, 10 years ago, 8 years ago, something. And it was making the rounds into the surf space. We poked fun. There was a lot to poke fun at. Eventually, Jonah reached out to you through a mutual friend and was like, why are you making fun of me so much? You guys became acquaintances and you stopped making fun of Jonah. Jonah got off Instagram, started doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. The reason he came up into the news this week is because he was on the Smartlist podcast. They were doing a live podcast. And Jason Bateman said, I know you do jiu-jitsu and people make fun of you on the internet. In reality, if you encountered, I think he worded it as if you encountered me, like if we got in a fight, what would happen? And Jonah said, I would effing annihilate you. And I think he kind of elaborated by saying, all these people making fun of me on the internet, I could take them too.
Yeah.
And the internet had a lot to say about that.
Man, I saw memes of Jonah's training and ... where, yeah, Yeah, that's it. I mean, at this point, you double down on it. You say, yeah, bring it, everyone, bring it. I'll take all you, dare you. But sort of daring people to come fight you in the street seems like in our day and age where nuts actually would fully do that. Didn't seem. I wonder if Jonah afterwards was like, "Uh-oh, it's probably something I should have held back a little bit on."
I've never seen anybody say that. Like I've seen maybe Conor McGregor, but even like anybody other than Conor McGregor, even champion belt holding UFC fighters, I see be more deferential.
Okay, here we go though. I think I stumbled upon the silver lining here, and or maybe what Jonah was trying to do. Maybe he felt like, hey, my training is plateauing. I don't have the interest. It's hard. I'm working. I wake up in the morning and I say, do I really want to get into the gym today? Do I really want to go roll? And so he thought, you know what? It's time to put a burr right under my own saddle. I'm going to go claim that I can take anyone out there publicly, and that's going to get me back into what do they call them again? It's not dojos. Studio. That's going to get me back into the studio with a whole new focus, and I will actually become. This is like putting it into the universe, manifestation 1.0. I'm going to put it in the universe, and now I'm going to be there, and I am going to go get my black belt. I'm going to become the person that I just spoke into existence.
I doubt that is exactly what happened, but
well, it's got to happen now. I mean,
the other thing is somebody's going to just sue him. Even if somebody picks a fight, if he actually grapples back, they're going to sue him.
Well, he's probably in the studio even as we speak. Hopefully he's listening right now. Jonah, if you're listening, get down and do another 10. It's time to up level.
Speaking of traveling the world and surfing good waves, did you watch John's latest YouTube vid?
Derek Riley posted it. I read it, but I did not watch it.
I'm just going to play a couple clips real quick. It's worth noting. And then this Riverside's going to glitch probably after I do this. But
is he in Panama?
Yeah, he is. He's at Bocas del Toro, which, by the way, one of the hardest beach breaks ever to surf.
Yeah.
It's so crazy. But this is all just to point out the best surfing that's happening in the world right now. John is next level. Do you see that under the lip takeoff right there?
It's insane.
So that wave is so hard to surf. It's so doubled up, and it doubles up so fast. It's like very difficult to get under. Even if you're trying to backdoor a section, it's so hard to do. It is also him taking off under the lip like that.
That's
and then
insane.
Maintaining speed. Like making the drop is one thing, but to make the drop and then keep that speed and forward momentum going to make it through the closeout is wild.
I mean,
it's next level.
Yeah, John is an artist in prime, I feel. How old is he now?
I don't know. 28 maybe? 30?
Yeah, so he's artist in prime that still has some, good 5 years of prime in him. And I'm glad that he's not wasting it on sitting around and waiting for Rio to come alive.
I think this one or the next one was crazy too. This one.
I mean, look at how steep that is. I would be straight over the handlebars, breaking my neck in the sandbar.
So one thing that I've mentioned about John in the last year or two is just like the idea of chasing waves, the best waves in the world, instead of going on tour has allowed him to elevate his game. Somebody pointed out, and they are correct, when you're sailing, you're not actually surfing that much. Like he is spending the vast majority of his time on the boat, not surfing. So my follow-up to that is like, it's possible that just time on the water helps elevate your understanding of the ocean. But he is getting better at surfing. I think it's undeniable when you watch each subsequent YouTube video that he publishes, his surfing is getting better and better.
How do you think that like a pumping heat, say like A+ Chopu, John paddles out into a heat? Does he just take everyone out? Is it not even close?
I think it's close. I think there's a couple people who can hang with him. Gabriel Medina, Kelly Slater, not Kelly at this point.
Jack?
Emios Sursmac, maybe Jack, maybe Kylie Vost.
What do you think about JJF's, the regular, and I guess Hawaii in general, the yellow-red combo?
It suits him. Yeah, I like it.
I never like that yellow-red for some reason. I know that it's cemented with Hawaii and all of it, but anytime I see it, I'm like, yellow and red are bad together.
It's not my look. I don't like it. I don't wear red. You know what's funny now that you say it? One time when I was 20 years old, I had this yellow button-down Quicksilver shirt, and somebody gave me a compliment and said, "That's your color. That yellow looks good on you." I freaking wore yellow for 15 years after that, and it doesn't look good on me.
Yeah, no, it's a rough. I feel yellow is tough to pull.
But you get that one compliment when you're 20 years old and you're like unsure, you're trying out a new style, and somebody lands a compliment like that. It sent me wayward unknowingly for 15 years.
Was it a babe who said it? Must have been.
Yes, it was a girl.
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah.
I mean, that would have been it.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm like, it was like a dark yellow, so I think that particular color did work for me. But then I just wore other shades of yellow for a very long time without actually reassessing how it looks on me.
I need to do like white chicks prosthetics. Do a full whatever. Look like a babe. Go find John and say, "Man, purple looks really good on you," and then just walk away and hope that the yellow-red combo disappears.
So you think that putting on prosthetics, trying to look like a woman, is the easiest route to influencing him to wear purple? You can just hire a girl to do this.
That's true. That'd be a lot easier. But I feel like like that girl, I'm going to have to put her, the woman who I hired to do this, is going to have to go, I'm going to have to get a great actress because she's going to have to deliver that line with conviction. Enough conviction where it lands in JJF's heart. Oh, you know what I do?
Chick from Obsession.
I just bribe his wife.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. Hey, just to tell John that purple looks good on him.
The version where you're putting the prosthetics on sounds exactly like a Nathan For You skit. You could hire Nathan Fielder to do this. So shifting gears dramatically, do you want to do a Don't Say Gay?
Sure do.
We haven't done it for a while. This one came in and it's kind of adjacent, but I think it still works. In all caps, the first sentence of the email says, "Keep name anonymous." I think I've botched that in the past. He said, or, they said, maybe it isn't even a he. They said, "It's clearly not a good idea, but is it racist for a white guy to play Kirk Lazarus, Robert Downey Jr. from Tropic Thunder?" I did not even think about the connection to white chicks that you just mentioned, but what a segue.
Here we are.
So is it racist for a white guy to play blackface in Tropic Thunder?
Was it racist for Robert Downey Jr. to play that character?
Yes, that's basically the question.
Yeah, no. I mean, it was clearly so satirical, where if satire has and that whole that movie is epic, and Ben Stiller's talked about it since that there's no way they could make that movie today, right? Because of the sacred cows they went on and burned. But that was very, very, very funny and self-aware. They knew what they were specific. That did happen in Hollywood, legitimately, and so to be able to poke fun at it, you can't take that away. But you also wouldn't be able to make that again, I don't think.
I'm going to go a step further and say, I don't think it's racist to have somebody of a race play somebody of a different race.
Anytime?
Pretty much.
In any way?
Not any time in any way, but the idea that you, as an actor whose job it is to play someone else, have to only play your race is patently absurd to me, and would also pigeonhole you into, I'm a white guy, but I'm not the same type of white guy as you are. You have a different family lineage, ethnic lineage than I do. So now if we're really going to follow, you and I.
maybe, probably not.
Let's do the 23andMe. Bring a third guy in. He's different than you and I are. You know what I mean? Like the odds of us having the same ethnic genetic makeup is very unlikely. And so once you get into that belief system, it's like, okay, so all black people can somebody from the if the role is somebody from the Congo, can a Jamaican play the person from the Congo, or do they have to be a Congolese person that plays? You know what I mean? Like all black people can now play any black person. All Asian people can play any Asian person. It's absurd.
I mean, I kind of hear you, but I also think that this is a evolution in Hollywood that is better. Of if you can get a Congolese to play a Congolese, that's better than having the Jamaican play the Congolese because it'll be better for the role.
No. The reason we got here is because they prevented Indian people from playing the Indian roles. They prevented black people from playing the black people roles. And that is a problem. Unequivocally, that is the issue that existed. But it's an overcorrection to say, we are not going to give the role to the most qualified person because they're the wrong race. That's an overcorrection.
Yeah, I mean, and I think the pendulum is swinging back, right? I think that we reached peak that pendulum a few years ago, and it feels like there's more grace now in terms of, well, you know, in terms of art, in terms of we're making art, there's a piece of art. But yeah, I mean, I still think that the correction was necessary at some point because when everything is going to, every role is going to basically white men, then, you know, you got to put some, let's think about this more broadly. And also let's elevate the level of other actors from other countries and cultures.
100% think that when every role is going to white men, that is a huge problem and the correction needs to be made. But to then, for the correction to also create an unfair bias or a built-in bias is equally as, not equally as problematic, but also problematic.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, at the end of the day, ideally, art should trump anything, right? If you're making, who makes this the best piece of art that it can be? And that's the person who should play that, whatever role it is.
Yeah, I guess the idea that we're even trying to institute a rule, I think is not correct. I think if you're the director or the casting director or whatever, your best interest is in casting the right person for the role, and that should be what you're focused on. And then the audience decides whether that was a good decision or not. But for the audience or anybody else along the way to weigh in and be like, you know, I forget who, the chick who was the lead girl in Marty Supreme.
Yes.
She has a strange name. Odessa?
Yeah. I remember. And what was the controversy? It was that she wasn't...
Something else. She got cast in something else where the character that she was going to play was Hispanic.
Yes.
And people gave her a bunch of grief, or the decision a bunch of grief. And so she backed out and also published an apology.
Yeah.
And I was like, I mean, yeah, if you're taking the role away from a better qualified or even equally qualified Hispanic actress, that is a problem.
But if you were the best person for the job.
If the director or the casting director or the creative said, I'm making this as a creative decision and I think you're the best person for the job, who cares?
Yeah, I mean, but I do think we did reach peak that a couple years ago. Like that might have been the peak. That I remember that whole controversy and her really her falling on the sword where she didn't cast herself. It's not like, oh, I wrote a movie about a Hispanic girl and then guess who's casting myself. And I do hope, yeah, because I feel that we can not all speak to each other's experiences, but we should be able to, okay, I'm a white dude, and so all I can ever think about, I guess, is white dude stuff and write white dude stuff and be a white dude because that's all boring.
Yeah.
Like if there's no bleed, but back to Kirk Lazarus, I think it was I don't know if Tropic Thunder was a work of art, top to bottom, but I think that was very funny, and I think it'll be its tongue-in-cheek look at all of this stuff is what we need. Everybody got so dang serious, and I feel we're on the way back to let's laugh a little bit again.
Yeah, and they were building in that as part of the joke.
Yeah.
It wasn't just Yeah, that was the joke. I'm going to rewatch Tropic Thunder. I haven't seen it since it came out.
I remember it having really funny scenes and wanting it to be funnier as a whole.
Yeah, that makes sense. For anybody who heard me mention Brendan Gleeson out of the blue at the beginning of the show, that was actually a callback to Noble Rot from Tuesday. So just FYI.
Cannot beat Brendan Gleeson.
By the way, if you're not listening to Noble Rot, we're coming up on episode 100 on Monday, and we're going to do it in person.
I was thinking that you can't live stream that stuff, can you?
People can. There is a technical ability to do it, but I do not have the ability to learn it by Monday.
Yeah. Well, anyway, it'll be live between David Lee and I on Monday in person.
In person. Should we do champagne to celebrate?
Heck, I mean, I was thinking that. I was thinking champagne and party hats.
And party hats. Okay. I thought you were going to follow it with a food.
Maybe some foie gras.
Okay, perfect. Do you have a source?
Nope. Maybe
Okay.
pate instead.
All right, go kill a duck.
Yep. Poor man's foie gras.
All right, well, let's go to commercial break. And in fact, I have food-related feedback when we come back from commercial. Chaz, welcome back to the show.
So good to be here.
Before we get to my food-related feedback, last week we were talking about the woman, the movement coach.
Yes. Who complained about a man telling her to paddle harder in the lineup.
She received unsolicited advice and was furious. An emailer mentioned, they go, hey, just it's worth noting, the Pros in the Wild story with your buddy river surfing in Bend, Oregon was the exact same but opposite thing, where somebody gave him advice. It was Jerry Lopez, gave him advice that was totally unsolicited. He appreciated the advice, took it to heart, and then figured out how to do the thing.
How epic would have been if the man who told her to paddle harder in the lineup was Jerry Lopez himself?
I feel like the movement coach wouldn't have even identified him as Jerry. So there's a possibility.
For sure not. Could have been Tom Curran for all we know.
Could have been Tom Curran.
Probably was Tom Curran now that I think about it.
Could have been. Could have been Jamie O'Brien.
Yep.
Also tons, I don't know how much you got, but tons of old Spaghetti Factory feedback.
Yes. People love the old Spaghetti Factory. Somebody even DM'd me and said, you should do a live podcast at the Newport Beach Old Spaghetti Factory, which I thought that'd be a fine idea.
Dude, we should totally do that.
Yep.
I'm totally down to do that. It is the perfect venue for us.
Absolutely. I'm going to reach out to the Old Spaghetti Factory's events team and see what the cost is to rent a section.
I just feel like
They
may hear about this conversation. As we've carried on week after week, word will get back to them.
Old Spaghetti Factory representative, feel free to reach out. There's nothing more that I want than a Mazithra cheese spaghetti plate.
So here comes an email. Hi, first-time writer, long-time listener. I was walking the dog today when you started talking about the Old Spaghetti Factory, and I couldn't wait to get home and write this note. First of all, I worked at the Old Spaghetti Factory on Sunset Boulevard in Hollywood in the early 90s. It was epic, all caps, and still is. Sadly, they tore down the Hollywood one, but anytime my family and I are en route to Palm Springs, we make it a point to go to the one off the 10 freeway in Duarte. But there is also one in Palm Springs. You gotta go. I was so surprised you guys didn't tap into a couple important points, and I want to share for you for you and your listeners. Okay, that weird pesto dressing is unbelievable and a must. You should have it on the side and dunk your bread in it. What about those endless, warm, free bread rolls? So by the way, I think they're sourdough rolls because somebody else told me about those as well. And I think the weird pesto sauce is warm also.
Yes.
Which is weird because even if you make pesto, you don't heat it. So it's weird that they're serving it warm. It turns the green basil brown if you do it. Most importantly, the Mazithra cheese is a must. 3 exclamation points. That crazy hard white cheese grated on top of brown butter pasta is next level. Pro tip, a side of mushroom sauce or meat sauce for mixing together a little with the cheese sauce. Not to be confused with a manager's favorite that offers you 50-50 portion. It's better to order the full Mizithra and then get your own little side of mushroom or meat sauce so that you can do the correct ratio.
When I discovered Mizithra cheese there, I thought, like, my mind was so blown. It was another jerk moment. If this is out here, what else is out there?
Super pro tip is to get the butter on the side, because I've noticed in recent years that they've been getting a little carried away with the butter. Please try this. Also, kids love this place. I'm generally a foodie, and I know that you are too, but there is something so low-key bad good, amazing and satisfying about a revisit to the old spaghetti factory. I don't know if it's nostalgic or what, but whatever the case, I highly recommend.
Thank you. Boom.
P.S. Would love to hear the follow-up on your longboarding journey. I think that's directed at you, Chaz.
Oh, yeah. It's stalled.
Okay. P.S. Two P's S. Loved your coverage of the woman being, quote, furious for somebody trying to help her in the water. You were right on this, as always. I am a woman. Why make it about that? It's just someone more experienced helping someone who is still learning. Take the help, stop having a chip on your shoulder, and stop making women look bad. Work.
Thank you so much. And man, I feel we could do, maybe we do. Maybe Noble Rot 100 is at the old spaghetti factory. I don't think there's one down here in San Diego. Is there?
I'd have to look up on their map again.
But yeah, that made me just hungry for a plate of Mizithra with a side of it's not bolognese. What am I saying? Meat sauce is what they call it at the spaghetti factory.
You know what's funny is I don't even remember how it came up in conversation last week. Do you?
I brought it up somehow. And
Oh,
I have
milk.
Yeah, milk.
It
Yeah,
was milk as a
drinking
barrel
milk.
or not, and you're like, I would go to the spaghetti factory and get it. So I had not thought of the old spaghetti factory in well over a decade, I'm sure. And as we were having the conversation, details were coming back to me that really evoked an emotion, like
Yeah.
a passion. But then as you mentioned spumoni, I was like, that's right. I forgot about the spumoni. When somebody emailed talking about the warm pesto sauce, I was
Yep.
like, I forgot about that. The Mizithra. I'm like, oh
Yep.
my gosh. But each person has their own little touch point with the old spaghetti factory that they
I
love.
feel the old spaghetti factory, again, we mentioned it last time, I think, but it was like blew your mind as a kid somehow, right? Like, so everyone who went, you didn't go for your first time to the old spaghetti factory as a 43-year-old. Like, if you stumbled into the old spaghetti factory at 43 today, I'm sure you think, oh, that's weird. It's like a weird chain. But it's the food you wanted as a kid, right? You wanted a big old plate of spaghetti. You didn't have to eat weird stuff. And you got the free ice cream at the end or included ice cream. The whole experience. And then, as you referenced, the old-timey saloon, creaky floor vibes, like all of it was just where I can't believe somehow they did it right, where it just didn't become like a Chuck E. Cheese, where there was just a bunch of kids' birthday parties, because that would have wrecked the vibe, right? It had a vibe as a kid, as an adulty kind of place. It's the adulty kind of place I can get around.
Also, I don't know if this memory is correct, but was the entire menu, could you choose from the whole menu, or was it like prefixed to a certain degree? I feel like it was like it was the same price, but you could pick, the salad was the same, the dessert was the same, but maybe you could pick a different appetizer and an entree.
I think you could go off-piste in terms of you could get like I'm sure they had lasagna and other stuff like that, which I never saw anyone get, but the spaghetti was all the same price, and it was clam sauce, meat sauce, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, and then the manager's special, the mixed one, right? So it felt like it, but it was pre-fee in that way, where you, and again, I think you could go off-piste and get an entree. I'm sure they had some crappy steak or something, but it was that list of spaghetti sauces where you're just like, what am I going to get?
It was basically everybody got the prefix version of
Yes.
the menu, and you would just choose Alfredo or meat sauce or whatever it was.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But
Yeah.
it was like the perfect, just enough decision making but not overwhelming, right? Like you go to, even like what, back in the day, the luxury times that I got to go to the Olive Garden, it felt kind of overwhelming. Like there wasn't enough bumpers, and I've shared my issues with buffets. If I go to a buffet, I will come back with a plate full of waffles and shrimp.
Right.
Just like weird stuff, right? Where Old Spaghetti Factory kept your bumpers on. You got your
Yeah.
bread, you got your salad, you got your spumoni at the end. Which one of the pasta sauces are you going to have on your pasta?
I also felt like it was remarkably cheap, even to me as a child. I was like,
I mean,
this should be more than $9.95 or whatever it was.
again, it allowed me to go on dates, fancy feeling dates in college, where I thought, oh, put on the top hat and the spectacle. I mean, monocle. We are going to have a spectacle tonight.
There were definitely, if I get 2 of these milks in me, we're gonna have a real spectacle. Side note, what about warm milk? Have you ever drinking? I mean, I know people would like have a glass of warm milk to go to bed back in the day.
No, I never went down that, even as a milk lover.
I don't even think I ever tasted warm milk in my life.
I'll tell you what I loved almost more than anything on earth, though, and probably more than anything on earth for a good couple years of my life, was Nestle Quick Powder.
With milk, obviously.
Yeah, with milk, but
Okay.
not the buy the Nestle milk in the plastic. Mix it at home with and if you got I didn't like the lumps in there, so if you ever had put it in the blender with your Nestle powder and your milk, and you could level the chocolate yourself. Oh my goodness, that was like heaven on earth.
I remember a weird thing from when I was a kid. I wonder if your parents had this too. It was Lipton powdered iced tea that you mix with water.
Yeah.
So it's same exact thing that you're talking about. It's just water, and you mix it with those crystals, and it turns into iced tea. And I remember as a kid, I didn't like iced tea, but I would sometimes take a little spoonful of that, and it was like sugar, basically. It was good.
I feel those experiences as a kid where you drink basically sugar water that's called tea and brown, and think, well, hello world, look at this sophistication.
As an adult, if I ever encounter a sweet tea, it is undrinkable to me.
Man, though, I remember when I discovered sweet tea on my first trip to North Carolina back some 20 odd, maybe 30 odd years ago, which I had never even heard of sweet tea at that point, having been West Coast born and bred. So it's went to a restaurant and they offered sweet tea, and I was like, what's sweet tea? And back then, it's funny how maybe you just blow your sugar sensors out in your mouth so much as a kid that you never want sugar again.
Yeah.
But I was not yet at that point, so had that sweet tea and thought, this is absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, there's no thing is too sweet when you're a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, well, let's get into some barrel or nah. Coming from Beach Grit article, quote, world's most suntanned man rescues woman in road rage dispute. Barrel or nah, fake tanning.
I'm going to say no barrel. I just don't understand it. I remember back in junior high, I obviously grew up in Coos Bay, Oregon, which sees the sun maybe 4 days out of the year. And had some neighbors, or down the street neighbors, who had kids, my and my sister's same age. And they're, I think, uncle or grandpa. Somebody lived in Mazatlan, had a house in Mazatlan. So they would go to Mazatlan in the summer, and they would always go fake tan before going to Mazatlan ostensibly as a, because this is safe for us. Then we won't get sunburned. And I would look at them walking up and down Coos Bay Street all tan and just be like, that is weird. And I think the Spaghetti Factory, that early, this is fabulous, stuck with me about fake tanning. Zach Johnson and Bryn Johnson, his sister, coming to school all weirdly tan in Coos Bay made me think that is awkward. So I've always felt it awkward.
I am definitely no barrel on fake tanning. And this goes for either getting in a tanning booth bed.
Yep.
with the UV light or whatever that is.
Little eyeball things on.
Yeah. And also goes for spray tans or any version of fake
Oh,
tan.
spray tan is gross. When you see spray tan
All of it's
coming off on like somebody's clothes where there's spray tan on the clothes and you realize you've spray tanned, is like, what are you doing? Why? Like, I mean, to be quite frank, I feel, and this is not an anti-trans statement, but by and large, God made us what we are. And so if you are a pale person, you're not supposed to be tan, right? If you are a person who tans, it looks good on you. I remember once in college, I dyed my hair black and went in the mirror and thought, I'm a punk now. Like, this is cool. Black hair like Sid Vicious and me. And then I looked in the mirror and was like, I am not, like, my complexion, there's a reason that I am a dirty swimming pool blonde, is because that's my complexion. That's what goes. And I feel, again, with tanning, if you can tan, just go tan. Or just go out, be outside, and you will tan.
The idea, artificial anything, but this one comes at a cost. It's like you potentially give yourself cancer in this scenario. So for me, I'm like, I've seen photos of myself when I am more tanned, and I think that I do look better. Like, that is a better color for my skin aesthetically. However, I'm not going to perpetually maintain that look because I might get cancer and die earlier.
Do you think at this point, because I remember there was the big cancer worry around fake tanning that tanning early, but it kind of went away. Do you think at the end of the day, is that safer than the sun?
How do I know what's safer, the sun or not? I think the sun actually has health benefit. So the sun would probably be healthier than the fake tan.
There's those people who live, I feel, in way northern Finland and whatnot, who never see the sun, where I think it's actually healthy to fake tan up there.
Really?
Yeah, I think it puts vitamin D's and whatnot in you.
Well, I could also be wrong then, as I often am. But the other thought that I just have is the amount of effort to go get the tan, the amount of time, the amount of money, all of that isn't worth it for my vanity. Like, it's too vain.
But also, and once again, I feel, back to the Coos Bay analogy, when everyone's pale because nobody's seeing the sun, and then two kids come to school that day who are like, and this is not, I'm not talking after summer vacation, this was pre-prep to go to Mazatlan, and so would come in the dead of winter, whenever it was, just brown, and there's a, talk with the buddies back in the day about this also, there's a different kind of, the mountain tan, right, is its own thing, where it like tans in between your toes and stuff. Like that tan is, the beach tan is one thing, the mountain tan is so saturating. I feel you get the mountain tan from tanning beds of, it's too, like, you're tan places that shouldn't be tan.
It's true. Well, that kid who saved the woman in a road rage dispute, clearly that was not his natural complexion.
Nope. But okay, what do you feel though, just not to go too long here, but who was it? George Hamilton.
Oh, is that his name?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, like who crazy tan. Always. Like that was his look of being, it used to be a look, I feel, in the 70s of the actor or actress who was like leather bag tan perpetually.
Never saw somebody that looked good doing it.
Yeah, it's true.
That's the problem.
Except for the kids, except for Robert Evans. Kid stays in the picture. When was the last time we saw Kid Stays in the Picture?
15 years ago.
That's a phenomenal doco.
Yeah. It was very good. One of the first that I remember where I was like, I love this
genre.
Yeah, this style of film.
Yeah.
Barrel or Not, coming off of Jamie O'Brien's discussion over on Stab Mike, disclosing your earnings.
Did Jamie disclose a number amount?
He repeatedly, over and over, for different things. So he didn't say I make this much a year, but he said he got $75,000 for the Pella door ad that he did with him, where he surfed the Pella door. They talked about he was making $30 a month off of his merch at one point. I don't know what he's making now. He talked about an Instagram short that he did that was only 1 minute long, but it got X number of views, and he made $15,000 off of that one video alone. But yes, he was disclosing his earnings over and over again.
In general, I would say think no barrel, but you telling me that, I was interested in each one of them. So I guess I'm going to go barrel. Like, why be precious about it?
I'm going definite no barrel, but I love when other people do it.
Yeah, because I'd be curious about, what does a booming 1 minute short make on, Instagram for if you're a Jamie O'Brien?
I guess, yes, I like hearing those things. It feels like salacious a little bit, like I want to know. But I had a conversation a long time ago about a girlfriend told me her friend's earnings. Like, oh yeah, my friend made X number of dollars. And I was like, don't tell me that. And she's like, why not? And I'm like, cause now I'm going to like judge like every purchase that she makes. I'm going to be like, she shouldn't be buying that. Why is she coming to dinner with us tonight? Like
she was too poor.
She wasn't. Yes. It was like,
that was the
how is she going on vacation all the time? You know what I mean?
Okay.
But also I think it applies if she said she makes $300,000 a year, I also would have had judgments. Just like as soon as I know the earnings, I think of the person differently somehow in some way.
If you knew my earnings, would you think about me differently somehow in some way?
I think every time I heard about a purchase made or not made, I would think about that number.
Okay, so if you knew how poor I was and then I keep showing up with new things, you'd be like, what are you doing, man? That is not fiscally responsible in your mind.
Yeah, exactly. Wouldn't you?
I don't think so.
Okay, maybe it's just me then.
I'm trying to think. I mean, obviously, it's in bad taste in general because usually the only time people are there's two times when it happens, I feel, in general, right? Like the general rule is somebody flexing their wealth, which is annoying, and then also somebody denigrating their wealth, which is equally annoying, right? Somebody who's like, oh, I'm so poor and dumb. I just, I can't get a job, work for $8 an hour. And like both of those are dumb. So I guess I'm going to go no barrel. In the Jamie O'Brien case, I'm actually interested, but any other time it's not serving you. Like there should be mystery a bit or decorum around your finances.
Yeah. So I think now that you're saying those things, I'm not bothered at all if I hear somebody got a paycheck for a certain thing. Like Jamie O'Brien made $15,000 from that one reel. Interesting.
But if you knew what he made his yearly income was.
Now I have a judgment attached to it.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
When I say judgment, I don't mean looking down on somebody. I just mean I run it through a new filter in my head.
I fully agree with you there, and I would too on if I knew if I know everyone's yearly income that I meet, that's a calculation that I'm thinking about that I shouldn't be thinking about because it should be immaterial to
Correct.
my relationship with that person and what that person is doing.
Yeah, exactly. Like if I heard that somebody, a close friend or family member, they got an inheritance, I wouldn't think one way or the other about that. I'd be like, oh, good for them,
Yes. It's a one-time thing that good.
Fantastic. Good for them. Whatever.
Somebody wins a blackjack hand for any amount of money, and it's like, sweet.
Always good for them, like for sure. And and also have no judgment on how they spend that. Like if they had, let's say, $100,000 inheritance and bought $100,000 car the next day, I'd be like, fine. But if I knew that their salary was $50,000 and you gave me that additional information, highly judgmental at that point.
Yeah, great. I'm totally 100% with you.
I'd be like, they only make $50,000. They should the only night out should be at the spaghetti factory. Yeah. They should not be buying. They should not be going to buy an expensive car.
Yeah, agree.
Okay, good. Glad we agreed on this one. Final barrel or not, also from Jamie O'Brien on Stab Mike, moving away from the beach. I don't know if you heard that part of his story. He moved away from Pipeline up into the hills because the siren call of Pipeline was dominating his life, and now he has a family, and he wants to focus on the family.
I mean, it's one thing for Jamie O'Brien. Moving away from the beach is in air quotes, right? He lives on Oahu, where even if you are on the very dead center from Oahu, of Oahu, you're 30 minutes to a beach. I mean, traffic notwithstanding. But in general, let's talk about mainland moving away from the beach. Yeah?
I think let's play the game of you made it in life, you're living on the sand as a surfer. Do you ever leave the sand?
I mean, to be honest, I wouldn't like. How many kids does Jamie have? Does he just have one kid?
I think so.
And I don't know what his property. Maybe he bought like acres up in the hill where a kid can run around in Oahu jungle and have all kinds of adventure. I wouldn't know, frankly, a better place than opening the door and having the kid just scramble out into the sand. In terms of if you got that, then I don't know why you would move away from that.
That's how I feel too. I can't wrap my head around it. I'm moving away from the beach, no barrel. It's so ingrained in me that is the pinnacle of life, is living on the sand, that I cannot imagine opting out of it.
What about, yeah, that's true.
I mean, if it was like coastal erosion or something, if you're living in the Outer Banks on a stilt house and it's going to get washed away, that's something different. But this is not that. This is just opting out because, like I said, he was saying, I'm doing the dishes, watching the waves, and I just can't not focus on trying to get out there.
What about, okay, what is your price tag for moving away from the beach? Job opens up, or a new podcast, you're still doing your podcasting. You still get to do your work, right? So it's like, but a new podcast studio opens up in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. And they say, hey, we love the podcast, but we will pay you X amount, but we want you in studio in Oklahoma City.
The exact dollar amount is however much it costs to fly a private plane back to the coast regularly.
How regularly?
3 days a week.
Really? So you would live in Oklahoma City, but you would necessitate, so they'd be like, we can't do that, but we can give you a $750,000 salary. If you want to spend some of that, I mean, we don't know what PJs cost. That's on you. If you want to spend that to get to the beach, that's on you. But it's $750.
I mean, to live in Oklahoma?
Yeah, Oklahoma City. It's kind of cool. I've driven through there.
I mean, I'm okay with Oklahoma City. I just I wouldn't want to live there.
I mean, $750. It's take it or leave it.
I think leave it. I'd rather live near the beach.
$750.
I mean, look, that's a lot of money to me, but I would rather live the lifestyle that I want to live than have $750,000 a year in Oklahoma City.
Okay, fine. You drive a hard bargain. We'll up it to $1 million. $1 million a year. We can't go any higher than that, though.
I guess I'd have to really pencil it out. $1 million sounds enticing.
$1 million would be too much to turn down, I feel, to podcast in a studio in Oklahoma City.
So $1 million a year, and it's cheap to live there. So I'd say we could live off the $100,000 a year in Oklahoma City and have a nice house. So I could take the 900. We have to do $1 million after taxes.
$1 million after taxes. Fine.
I could take the 900 and bank that, invest that, use that, and I can do this for 5 years. I would take that bet.
You would not just leave the family at the beach and say, honey, sorry, I got to go I'll be gone 4 days a week. They'll give you the Fridays off. I'm going to be gone 4 days a week and home 3 days a week.
No, I don't think so.
You need the family there.
Well, look, now you're putting a price on the most precious thing in life. So we live a good life. We love where we live and we get tons of quality time together. It's not worth the $1 million. Like we can all be together. They can come with me, fly us back and forth on the private jet, or we'll live off the $100K, bank the 900 for 5 years,
and then retire.
And then we'll be good to go from there.
Okay, great.
I think that's
the strategy. Glad we sorted this out.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
What a wild. Where do we come up with these scenarios?
I mean, no, but all back to like the cost of moving away from the beach. There is a price to it for me. And I'm no wave addict in terms of, I might be now, my Panza Pintail a wave addict. Ooh-wee. Shay somewhat. But yeah, it's not like, I feel like Matt Warshaw felt the same kind of thing, though, moving up to Seattle, where it was relief to get away from the constant needing to surf. So if surf is an unhealthy addiction, then that's something that I don't have. So it's hard for me to think about that.
I agree, but he also wasn't living on the sand.
Yeah, he wasn't.
Like, that's the other thing is, like, if you made it to the sand.
But Jaime wasn't either. Jaime was 2 houses back, I think.
He's right there.
He's right there. I mean, he's down a small path.
Yeah. So anyways, by the way, is there an old spaghetti factory in Oklahoma City?
There's gotta be. That's probably
I'm in.
Yeah,
I'm in.
done.
I'll do it.
Taking the 750 again.
Can you imagine how many dinners 750 will buy you?
A lot. A whole lot. Man, what if somebody in Oklahoma City said, David Lee, we've heard the pod. We're going to gift you a franchise, a old spaghetti factory franchise in Oklahoma City. You just have to be there somewhat regularly to manage it.
I'm packing my bags, and I'm packing on 50 pounds.
Mazithra town, here we come.
All right. Thanks for all the good memories, all you listeners who messaged us about Old Spaghetti Factory. Fun going down memory lane.
Sure was.
All right, Chaz, I will see you in person on Monday.
In person, looking forward to it. And all come on and tune in to No Barat on Monday. It'll be a banger 100th episode.
Episode 100. Cannot wait. Until then.
Hip work.